I wanted to come to Lagos first because of the vibrant developer and entrepreneurial ecosystem that you guys have here, right, as Ime was just talking about. And so I've been going around the world to different cities, and we've been doing town hall Q&As and sitting down with people in the Facebook community and hearing from them about how they use our services and what we could do better. And here in Lagos, I wanted to not just sit down with people in our community, but sit down with developers and entrepreneurs. And the reason for that is there's this energy here. I mean, you feel it as soon as you get off the plane, right? And it's, I think the world needs to see that, right? And, here in Lagos and across the continent, things are changing really quickly, right? I mean, the economy is shifting from a resource-based economy to an entrepreneurial and knowledge-based economy. And you guys are the ones who are leading that change. And not only remaking Lagos and Nigeria, but shaping the whole continent and influencing how things are going to work around the world for the next generation. And I think that that's a story that is underappreciated in a lot of parts in the world. I think that people often don't really have a sense for how much energy there is and what the entrepreneurial spirit is here. And so I just wanted to have a conversation today and talk about that. And it's great to be here with all of you guys. So, striking is the energy, right? The entrepreneurial energy. I think when you're trying to build something, what ends up mattering the most is just who wants it the most, right, a lot of the time, and who cares the most to build it. And, you feel that here. As soon as you get off the plane and land and start talking to people, you feel that passion and that entrepreneurial energy. And I can tell you two stories just from last night, right? I talked to, probably no more than 100 people, and was just really blown away. So the first story, I stopped at this training program on Della, right? That my foundation invested in to help train really talented folks across the continent to be world-class engineers and work for companies around the world. And I sat down and had the opportunity to meet this woman, Blessing Eboe. And she told me the story about how she applied to the program, and the first time she didn't get in. But that didn't stop her. She showed up anyway. And she showed up again. And they figured, all right, we got to give her a try. And she went through the training program, and she crushed it. And now she is a top engineer working for a multinational company. If you have that attitude, you win. Another story. So right after that, I went down the street, and I stopped by this little store and met this woman, Rosemary Njuku, who is selling connectivity nearby using the Facebook Express Wi-Fi program. So she already had a shop, and she was already selling stuff to people who were coming by, and she decided, hey, I could grow my business further if I also started selling connectivity to the people who were nearby. So she got hooked up with some folks who work with Facebook, and the internet is one of the most fundamental parts of infrastructure that I think needs to exist, right? And here my trip here is mostly focused on entrepreneurship and developers, right? And I just have met so many people who are building things that you meet people like I went to the CC Hub in Yaba yesterday, and I met this woman, Temi Giwo, who's building this company, LifeBank, right? It organizes blood donations so that people can give blood, and it gets them to the people who need them. And you meet someone like that, and you're just like, all right, this is a thing that needs to exist, right? And if everyone had the opportunity to build something like this, then the world would be a better place. It turns out, so I've been to a lot of different cities, I think that people all around the world are trying to build stuff like that. If she can actually pull it off, then she'll show a model that'll impact not just Lagos and not just Nigeria, but countries all around the world. right? And if you had everyone on the internet, then you'd have more shots at getting that right. So we have a three-part plan for spreading internet. The first part is building infrastructure, right? Making it so that no matter where you are in the world, you can get access to a signal. So that's stuff like, we're launching a satellite later this week to beam down connectivity. We've built these solar-powered drones that are basically like a cell phone tower in the sky that can go over really remote rural locations and beam down connectivity to make sure that the networks spread and reach everyone. So that's the first part. The second part of the plan is you need to make the network affordable, right? Because it's not much good having the infrastructure if people can't afford to use it. So there are two parts to that. One is building cheaper infrastructure, so that way the companies that are building the infrastructure can charge less for it and still be profitable and sustainable. And the second, I think, is on app developers, like all of us, to use less data. Right, in the last few years, we've had this big effort at Facebook to make it so that our apps now take 1/10 the amount of data that they did a few years ago. So that means that if you're using our apps now and you're paying by the megabit, you're paying 1/10 of what you paid a few years ago. So that makes the internet more affordable. And the third part of the plan is just making sure that people understand why the internet might be valuable for them to use. Right? And that might be, that's the most counterintuitive for entrepreneurs who I speak with, because you guys are all on the internet, right? So, and a lot of you probably grew up with it and kind of take for granted that this is something that's going to be really valuable. But if you grew up and you didn't have access to the internet and someone showed up and said, hey, do you want to buy a data plan? Your first question would probably be, what do I get for that? Right? Why do I want to pay for this, even if I have the money to do that? So, we're working on programs like Free Basics, which is now live in 22 countries across the continent, to make it so that people can get access to some basic internet services for free and don't have to pay in the beginning. And then what we find is that people start using the internet and then pretty much immediately want to start paying for the full thing because they realize how valuable it is. Programs like Express Wi-Fi, what I just talked about, what Rosemary was selling in her store. They have a program where the first 2 weeks of internet are free. Right, so people use it, and then after that they come and they buy connectivity. So I think those three steps, right, spreading access, lowering the cost, and spreading awareness are the key things. And if we do that, then my hope is in the next 10 or 15 years, we'll get the other half of the world that's not on the internet today on, and you'll have more ideas like Temi's, more people will be building stuff like that, and the world is just going to be a much better place.